Good morning, everyone. It's good to see that folks are already hopping on, that many of us are not, in fact, playing hooky today, even though it's a snow day. It's a pleasure to see you again. My name is Kristine Brown. I'm the Director of Member Engagement for the Reno+Sparks Chamber, and it's about 4 minutes until the top of the hour, and we'll get started right at 11 o'clock. But I just wanted to welcome those of you who are already hopping on the call. And thank you for being part of Chamber EDU. Chamber EDU is an initiative that we started throughout the course of the coronavirus pandemic. It's gone by many names. Initially, it was called our Ask the Expert series, and then it morphed into the Path Forward series. And now it's gotten a little bit more of a grown-up title, Chamber EDU, and has become very much our educational arm, and will continue to be even beyond the pandemic. So we're very pleased to be able to offer our members educational opportunities, even in small ways, whether it's a 30-minute webinar or an hour-long workshop. And you'll be able to take advantage of many more to come. And so I invite you to stay close to us, check your email often for emails from us, check in on our website, on our Chamber EDU page for current and future offerings, and of course, follow us on social media. We're constantly adding new calls, adding new opportunities, trying to add value to your experience as a chamber member. So please go ahead and check those out at any point. And it looks like we have Dr. McNeill on the line now.
Good morning. How is everyone? Or yeah, it's still morning.
You have to ask yourself, not only is it, we're in coronavirus days, but also it's a snow day. And so what is time?
Time is all relative these days.
Indeed. Well, we know that you don't take snow days, and the folks on this call don't take snow days either. I thank you so much for being here with us. We still have about 2 minutes before we get started, so I'm just going to go dark for a little bit and let more people hop on, and we'll get started shortly.
Great, thank you.
All right, everyone, welcome once again. It is great to see some friendly and familiar faces. Kendall, I see you. Good morning. Thank you so much for being here. Once again, my name is Kristine Brown. I'm the Director of Member Engagement for the Reno+Sparks Chamber of Commerce, and this is Chamber EDU. Again, this is the Chamber's way of providing educational opportunities to its members on a regular basis in whatever form we can. And of course, right now, given the current state that we're in, the best way to gather together is virtually. And so we're committed to offering these workshops to our members free of charge, giving them an opportunity to hear from community leaders and stakeholders and lawmakers alike. We've had the likes of Deputy Director of GoEd, Bob Potts, on the line. We're getting ready to welcome Jackie Rosen, a senator from the great state of Nevada, next week, as well as some other great folks. But today we have Dr. Kristen McNeill, who is the superintendent of the Washoe County School District. And it's a big day, not because it's a snow day, but but because today is actually the date that is set aside for the state of Washoe County Schools. So a big address coming this evening from Dr. McNeill and her staff. And I'm sure everyone is ready to go and is full of hope and anticipation for that address. So thank you, Dr. McNeill, for being with us on such an important day and for sharing some of your thoughts with us.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. I just want to make sure that everyone can hear me. We're good to go.
Yes, indeed.
All righty. Well, I do look very forward to our time together today. Just letting you know some of the great things that are happening in our district. I don't have to tell you all, it's been an absolutely extraordinary year for all of us, but rewarding and inspiring. And so we're going to be sharing some of that information tonight. I'm exceptionally proud by the way that our district family has really pulled together to support our students and families and each other during these unprecedented times. I absolutely believe that with every challenge comes an opportunity, and we've worked to take advantage of every opportunity that's come our way in the school district. As was mentioned, our district has put together our annual State of Education address. It is a little bit different than it was last year. It will be a virtual presentation. And it's not just me being a sage on the stage. We have really made this all about our district family, from our teachers and our administrators, our students and our families. And so it's really going to be a look at the past and the present and then the future of what we're doing in the Washoe County School District. And people can take a look at that. It's tonight at 5:30. They can go to our website at www.washoeschools.net. It will also be on our district Facebook page and on our YouTube channel. Again, it starts at 5:30 p.m. and lasts for about 30 minutes. And I really hope that you'll be able to tune in and meet some of our wonderful staff and students and families who have really worked very hard this year to make it successful. And we're only halfway through the year. But once again, State of Education tonight at 5:30. And I did receive some questions from members. And so if it's good, I'll just go ahead and dive into those questions. Does that sound?
Yeah, so what we'll go ahead and do, I'll go ahead and pose the questions to you that we got from members ahead of time. And also I'd like to invite folks who are on the call to just enter whatever questions they have into chat. We like to reserve, about 5 to 10 minutes at the end of the call for whatever questions you have in real time. If there's something that comes to your mind, please don't be shy, just enter it in the chat box. Please stay muted because it definitely helps ease of communication to only have Dr. McNeill being the one who's speaking. So thank you everyone again for being here. But Dr. McNeill, I know it's been since July. I almost can't believe it. It's been since July since we last spoke. And it's coming up on a year that we've been living through this COVID-19 life. I mean, I hesitate to say crisis because this is our life right now. And of course, it's going to be part of our lives for many years to come. But I'm curious to hear, what are some of the biggest challenges and victories that you feel the district has faced and overcome so far in the school year at the halfway point?
Yeah, no, it's been, like I said, an extraordinary time, on our planet and here in Washoe County. But obviously providing options to our families. You all know we have the in-person model for our elementary schools. We've got the hybrid model in our secondary schools. And then we also have the option of full distance learning for our families. And we know that each family is unique and their situations are unique. And we really wanted to have, choices available for our families so that they would be able to choose the best model for their child. We've worked hard to ensure that our schools are safe places for our students and families and staff members. Spent a tremendous amount of time making sure that we had the mitigation efforts of face coverings. So just so everybody knows, I'm in my office with the doors closed. So that's why, if somebody walks in, I have my face covering. But anytime you're on district property, you must be using a face covering. But, hand washing, we've got additional cleaning practices within our schools. And I'll tell you what, I think there was a little bit of trepidation as far as how our students would take that, right? When we came back into school in August, and I will tell you, bless their hearts. I mean, our students are right there. You go onto a campus and everybody has their face coverings. Every now and again, you got to tell a little one, pull it up over your nose and make sure it's on your mouth. But everybody has just been tremendous about that. And I give a shout out to our families too for that. When we do have COVID cases, though, importantly, we work very closely with the Washoe County Health District and Washoe County to identify those close contacts, exclude those persons who have been identified as coming into contact with the positive case, and then continuing to provide distance learning resources to our students when they are excluded. We've created even closer partnerships with community agencies and organizations throughout this time. And I'll mention some of them, but please, know that there's hundreds of them. The Food Bank of Northern Nevada, the Education Alliance, Communities in Schools, Jobs for Nevada Graduates, Children's Cabinet, and so many others who have just really stepped up and helped us out in so many ways. Not only for supports for our students, but support for our staff members as well, too.
Absolutely. I think that, if there's anything that's true, it's that so many of our families and so many of our kids are a lot more resilient than we give them credit for, especially our kids. We worry, and rightfully so, how this period of life, this era that we're living in, is going to affect them long term. And to be sure, and we'll address some of those concerns later on in the call as well, but at least in the moment, they are shouldering these burdens beautifully. And it's amazing to see, how the community has truly rallied around the cause of our kids and continues to do so with whatever fallout or effects we may be facing in the future. So of course, one of the things on everyone's mind is vaccination. That is kind of the topic, not only for us as individuals, everyone kind of wondering, where am I in the vaccine line? But of course, we're looking right now at some of our most important citizens getting vaccinated right now, our healthcare workers, and of course, Washoe County School District teachers, staff, faculty, personnel. So what can you tell us about the vaccination effort so far? How many folks have you been able to vaccinate? How many are still in the queue? And what has been the receptivity to vaccination? Have people been receptive to the idea of getting the vaccine?
Absolutely. And it's a great question. I'm on a call every Thursday morning with the Council of Great City Schools, which is an organization for large urban school districts. And one thing I can tell you is it looks different in every single state, every single district around vaccination. And that goes to the efforts, from local agencies, but then we are all dependent upon supply. With at the end of the day, we are dependent upon the supply of vaccination. So about 80% of our staff members have indicated that they would like to get the vaccine, which is voluntary. It is not a condition of employment. We provided the first vaccines to our first responders, such as school nurses, our clinic aides, and our school police, and then to staff members who work with our most vulnerable populations. We sent a survey to all 8,000 staff members, asking if they wanted to receive a vaccine, and then asking for general information about risk factors that they may have. And then we use that information to organize our staff members through what's been lovingly referred to as pods. points of distribution. I'm sure you all have heard of pods. And then which would receive those invitations for later pods as vaccines become available. And, it was an exciting time last week in our school district at North Valleys. We had 350 staff members come through our pod at North Valleys High School. And then we will also be holding a pod this weekend and then periodically over the next few weeks. And we're going to continue to partner with our community agencies who are also offering pods throughout the community. But just like other agencies, this will depend, like I said before, on the supply of vaccines. We've issued just this week 6,700 invitations to our employees, asking them to sign up for a vaccine at a future district pod. And then obviously we could not do this without our community partners, Sparks, Reno, Truckee Meadows Fire Protection Districts. They have just been tremendous on this. The Washoe County Health District, the Washoe County, separate and distinct from the health district, but all of them have just been hugely helpful. They really understand the efforts of our district and that our staff members need to get this vaccine. They are essential workers. And it's extremely important to myself as a superintendent and importantly to our board of trustees that our employees get this vaccine. And then obviously could not do these pods and these vaccination clinics without our volunteers. We have over 700 of our own employees taking their times on evenings and Saturdays to help out with this effort. And then obviously community volunteers, from the Battle-Born Medical Group, the National Guard. I mean, everybody has just stepped up and to help us get this effort underway.
That's fantastic. And to your point, we're so reliant on supply at the moment. I mean, it sounds like that between all of the community cooperation and partnership and volunteerism of your staff, the infrastructure is certainly not the issue. It's just being patient and waiting for the supply of vaccine to arrive in our region and be distributed to the district. So it's good to hear that you've got that infrastructure in place, it's working, and that 80% of district staff are game for receiving the vaccine. That's also very good news. Moving to technology, I know, early on in the pandemic, March, April, it was go time when it came to rallying community resources. I know Kendall with Education Alliance, who's on the line, can very much attest to this. It was a race to gather the resources, to gather community partners in order to provide our students with the technology they need in order to learn from home. So I'm curious if you could give us a quick update on where we are with distributing technology, laptops, et cetera, tablets to our students, and also what internet access looks like for them currently.
Absolutely. And I know Kendall, hey, Kendall, but, obviously thanks to our IT staff and the Education Alliance, and then other community partners. So right now we have provided, and this is an update as of this morning, 17,276 laptop computers for our students who are engaged in any type of learning, whether it's distance, in person, or hybrid. We've also lent out more than 3,000 hotspots to our families who do not have connectivity at home. And, you mentioned, the actual device itself. So over the winter holiday, our IT department literally was unpacking thousands of devices, and they worked very long hours over the holiday break in order to get this done. Myself, our deputy superintendent, we had trustees jump in. We were all unboxing and imaging these computers to get them out and get the devices into the hands of our students. We talk a lot about all hands on deck in our school district, and that's what this effort was, to get these devices into the hands of our students. All of our students have connectivity now, and we work very closely with our providers as far as internet service. We know that within the CARES Act 2 funding that's hopefully going to be coming, I think we'll start seeing some of those those funds come within the next few weeks, we're hopeful. And connectivity was a big part of that.
Absolutely, and I know there are plans at the federal level to address connectivity and broadband issues. So I think we're all waiting with bated breath to see, you know, some of those disparities, some of those gaps close. And so again, thank you for that update, and thank you to every community partner who is helping to close those gaps right now. And it's so great to hear that every student has the access that they need at this moment for distance learning. That is a fantastic victory. So turning, I know we kind of alluded to this earlier, but we do have some, you know, current concerns and long-term concerns for our students as it pertains to mental health through the coronavirus pandemic. There's absolutely, you know, evidence that kids are experiencing a lot more stress, a lot more anxiety than they ever have before. We're seeing it in the numbers of kids who are calling hotlines, texting to get help, and so I'm curious to hear from you what you would say about students' current state of mind, and what mental health mitigation efforts do you see being necessary down the line in order to help these kids move through their trauma?
It's, you know, and it's a very important issue in our school district. And again, you know, we were talking this morning with other superintendents, and my colleague down south, Dr. Jara, you know, they've experienced, unfortunately, huge amounts of trauma and suicide. And this is such a, it's a national issue, and we need to bring it out, and we need to talk about it. And this issue is exceptionally, it's personal for many of us, and it's at top of mind every day for our families and for our teachers and principals. You know, we've struggled as a nation, we've struggled as a region with this. But, you know, we felt that students needed to have that option for one-to-one contact. And I was so proud of our board voting for in-person because that's so important for our students. It's important to have that contact. And you know, I think we all hope and pray that we're going to get there sooner rather than later to have our students fully back in our buildings. But we felt that it was really critical to offer that opportunity to our students. Nearly 24,000 of our students and their families have chosen the option to have in-person learning. And then approximately 19,300 students have chose to engage in the hybrid or learning or hybrid model. But you mentioned importantly about mental health. And so I want to emphasize the support from our mental health community partners across this region. So many of our local providers, from therapists and psychiatrists, social workers, have spent time at reduced or no cost to our families. And I can't stress enough that we need more mental health supports in the state of Nevada. And so we will be advocating for that at this next session. And then importantly, next week is a National School Counselor Week. And I often talk about certain sectors of our employees with wings on their back. And I will tell you, our counselors are angels. They have just demonstrated their hard work during this past year. We know that we've relied on our counselors, our social workers, our teachers, administrators to help provide these supports to our students, and importantly, each other. We have really leaned on each other during this time as well. But our students, you know, they are front and center. It's what our mission is. It's what we do. And so to get this conversation out more, mental health should not be something that we are afraid to talk about. I've talked about it very personally as a mom, as you all know, with both of my children. And it's something that we just need to be honest about and talk about.
Absolutely. There should absolutely be no stigma when it comes to giving help and getting help. I think that's part of being human, and it's good for not just our kids, but for the adults in our lives to feel the freedom to to seek out the help that they need. Thank you. Really quickly, I know we're starting to run out of time. Hopefully it won't be too terrible if we go over time by about 5 minutes, because there's still so many great questions, and some great questions that we've gotten via chat as well. Really quickly, just addressing the budget. We know that there are likely some painful cuts coming that you're examining and that the Board of Trustees is examining. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. We just had a budget work session this week, and you're able to watch that work session. We know that Governor Sisolak has proposed his budget, and that education was spared a feared 12% reduction. That did not happen within his proposed budget. However, at this time, there's about a 2% proposed reduction for K-12. We do know that the CARES Act 2 federal funding will help support our schools, help provide relief in the areas of academic recovery, and just as I mentioned, mental health and other needs relative to the pandemic. In our district, we're working on our upcoming budget. And just as I mentioned, you all are able to see the Tuesday work session. But importantly, as a team right now, we are reviewing our anticipated revenues, our expenditures, allocations, cost reductions to ensure we're developing the budget. When we need to present that to our board, we will continue to have outreach to our community. We're putting together a survey so that we can get input from our community around that. Obviously, we will continue to use our tax dollars as efficiently and effectively as possible. And it was noted at our work session, normally by this time, we actually have an idea of our general fund deficit or surplus in the good times. But under the governor's proposed budget, there's a phased in implementation of the per pupil centered funding plan. And so we can't yet determine the level of general fund revenues for Washoe County School District at this point. There's just too many unknowns, and we didn't want to throw a number out there. So we don't have a number at this point in time. The state has released an analysis of district by district impacts for the Legislative Commission. That just happened this past Friday. So we're hoping to hear an update from our business office on February 23rd, another work session. But just know that, so some of the things that we are anticipating for fiscal year 22, flat enrollment, we'll budget as a district as flat enrollment, stable teacher allocations. We are hoping that we're going to be able to relax social distancing guidelines. Obviously we have Michael Inskeep, which is extremely exciting. So we've got Michael Inskeep Elementary opening up in Cold Springs. As you all probably know, the board took action to have North Star Online School as our distance learning model going into next year, which will provide options for our families as well.
That's a perfect segue into one of our other questions, which has to do with the next year. So, to your point, we know that North Star will be the hub for all distance learning next year, but I think everyone is wondering how close to approaching normal could next school year look, and what are you guys planning for?
It's interesting that you say that. So tomorrow we have a work session around, it's our very first work session on our strategic plan. And, as a superintendent, I haven't had the opportunity, because we've been so enmeshed, right, and taking care of our children and for all the right reasons. But I haven't had the opportunity as a superintendent to really kind of go out and talk about our vision. We know that we have a bridge strategic plan right now in place. But our proposal will be to have a 2-year strategic plan, and that will really be centered around response and recovery, because it's not going to just be a one and done year and then we're off, all the good times.
Right.
It's going to take a tremendous amount of time and very strategic and pinpointed strategies and initiatives in order to get where we need to be. One thing about the pandemic, whenever you're in a crisis situation, you have to look for silver linings. And our teachers, our schools have just been absolutely amazing in coming up with strategies and ways to engage our students, whether it is in a full distance or in a hybrid or a blended learning model. We know that public education is it's not going to go back. We can only move forward. And so the ways that we have been able to learn through this pandemic and taking out those areas of agency, and areas that we can move forward with, whether it's career development, technology, but really taking a look at best practices and how we're going to be able to implement that within our schools.
Absolutely. I think, to your point about, workforce skill development, training, that seems to be, because the pandemic has really accelerated the changes of the economy that we knew were coming, specifically with the fourth industrial revolution and the nature of work itself shifting and changing. We're seeing that need. We're seeing that need to change our approach to even K through 12 education to prepare our kids for those futures. And so I find it interesting and actually really comforting that this dialogue is happening in every sector at every level. And I'm eager to see what evolves from that strategic plan. And I think you're spot on. I think that's the way to go, keeping our strategic plans a little shorter in duration and having a focus on both immediacy and with a view to the future. So thank you for your leadership in that way. We'll go ahead and move into our questions from chat. We've got some really good ones. I want to make sure we have time to address folks' questions, and now is the time. If you have a burning question that you would like to see addressed, please go ahead and submit it through chat, either to me directly or to everyone. You are welcome to do so. So the first question has specifically to do with substitute teachers. So substitute teachers, and this person is asking, who are actively working at schools, do they come under the category of frontline teachers? And if so, how can they get the vaccine?
So our guest teachers, for our substitutes, we call them guest teachers here. They do receive the vaccine. And so they have, through our HR department, we have sent out surveys to get them into the tiered groupings that we have, but our guest teachers are absolutely in there. And importantly too, our interns, our student interns. So whether they're through the University of Nevada, Reno, Truckee Meadows, Sierra Nevada College, we're also working with them so that our interns can get in that group as well.
Fantastic. That's absolutely fantastic. There's a whole ecosystem around our students and guest teachers. I like that terminology. Guest teachers and interns absolutely are part of that ecosystem. Another really good question. So we have an attendee asking when non-school personnel volunteers may be allowed on campus again, such as nonprofit partners.
Absolutely. And a few weeks ago, I had a call with our foster grandparents, and bless their heart, they so much want to get back into our schools, and just letting them know that there will come a time, but they're a very high risk category, and we want to make sure that they're safe. So I wish I had a date to tell everybody when we're going to be able to do that. I don't. A lot of it, has aspects as far as the governor's directives and how many people we're able to have in a space at a time. But we always want to make sure that our nonprofits know that we want them. But importantly too, our nonprofits have really stepped up and come into ways to engage our students in a virtual fashion. Sierra Nevada Journeys, Urban Roots. I mean, there's just different ways that we're able to take, and I see Kendall nodding her head. There's ways that we can take virtual field trips to really, still have that kind of engagement for our students. But believe me, we want our volunteers back in our schools.
Absolutely. And volunteers want to be back in the schools, I'm sure, as well. I mean, people wouldn't volunteer if they didn't have a heart for kids and want to see they're good and want to make sure, to be quite frank, make sure they're okay through this time. And I'm glad to hear that there's some virtual options, that people are getting creative. That's been how we survive and find a way to get through this time. So thank you. We all wish we had a way to determine when those dates and when those restrictions will lift, but we'll keep waiting and hoping and trusting.
Yeah, and I see our partners, big brothers and big sisters. I want to do a shout out to them because, I was talking about mental health, and having that mentor relationship with our students is so tremendously important right now, because unfortunately, we've talked about this eyes on kids, and that's where big brothers and big sisters come into play. So thank you.
Absolutely. That's a perfect segue into what I'm seeing as the last question from chat. And it actually kind of coincides with, one of my questions as well on behalf of the chamber, which is, what the chamber can do specifically. What can businesses and other partners do specifically to be of most help to the district right now? I know that Partners in Education is a great way. I'm curious if you can elaborate perhaps on how businesses can get involved in that way, or if there are other avenues where businesses and chamber members can get involved.
Absolutely. I've talked about all hands on deck, and, the more that we are a community, education is, it is our survival. What makes us such a vital part of our community, and business, we can't do it without them. We can't do it without our businesses. And so whether it's just getting the message out, working in relationship to an individual school, but this is about economic development. This is about making sure that our region is going to grow and survive during this time. Nevada, we always seem to be the state that gets hit the worst. But luckily for Northern Nevada, because of the forward thinking of the chamber and EDON and other agencies, we're a little bit in better shape, than other areas. And that goes to the future, and outward looking. So as far as concrete efforts, just keeping in contact, with us, getting the word out. I know that our communications team, whenever we have a big event, such as the State of Education, get the links out, share it. And then also it has to be reciprocal too. And it has to be a reciprocal relationship as well too. So if the chamber sees, areas where the district, may need to get involved, then please just let us know.
Absolutely. And as these conversations about workforce development and moving toward recovery and resilience, which of course education is an absolute linchpin in that conversation, I think there's only going to be more collaboration in the future. And that excites me. And I think it excites everyone in this region to know that those sinews are being built, those bridges are being built, and ultimately it's for the sake of that future generation who will be taking our place and who will need a place to fit in our future economy and our future society. And so thank you so much. That's a pretty bright note to end it on, especially after such a challenging year. Thank you, Dr. McNeill. I wish you the best in the conclusion of this school year. Can't believe it's only been halfway, but here we are. We keep marching. And of course, for State of Education tonight, I hope everyone can tune in, or if you're like me, unfortunately you can't tune in when it's happening, watching it after the fact on YouTube. And on that note, this call will also be available for viewing on YouTube for anyone after the fact, because we really believe this information is important for everyone to know and to hear. And so we invite you to watch on demand, watch any of our sessions on demand, and of course, share the good news. So thank you again, Dr. McNeill, and everyone on the call.
Stay safe, drive safe, wear your face covering, social distance, wash your hands, everybody be safe.
Thank you so much. Words to live by. All right. Have a good day, everyone.